Afternoon, everybody. This is I'm Sharon Magdell. John, I'm not seeing the camera though. I should be able to see what's being broadcast if you put it in speaker mode or something. So I should be able to see this up here, John. You know that. Anyway, we're doing this a little different today. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, John. We're doing this in a hybrid mode because I'm here in the conference room with Peter Warenga, and I also opened my computer. So it's a little bit different screen for me than usual. So anyway, I'd like to welcome everybody to our special water webinar celebrating 60 years of the WRRC. As I said, I'm Sharon Magdell, Director of the Water Resources Research Center. Most everybody except two of us in the room are on Zoom, and we ask that people to keep themselves muted unless speaking. We're going to have a formal program that's organized and then follow that with an open mic portion. We are recording this. It will be posted to our website, and anybody who registered will get notification of that. And we invite everybody to have a glass of water or mug or some other beverage of your choice. Here in the room, we have water because we are going to have a toast in kind of the middle of the program. So I do want to note that we respectfully acknowledge that the University of Arizona is on the land and territories of Indigenous peoples. Today, Arizona is home to 22 federally recognized tribes, with Tucson being home to the O'odham and the Yaqui. Committed to diversity and inclusion, the university strives to build sustainable relationships with sovereign Native nations and Indigenous communities through educational offerings, partnerships, and community service. Do want to bring your attention to a couple of upcoming events. Actually, this afternoon, there's both a Zoom and in-person event on PFAS, tackling it through governance and science. That's at 4 o'clock this afternoon with a bit of a reception before that. Information on that is on our website. And on the November 20th, we're going to host a water webinar looking at the accomplishments of the students working on research funded by the 104B grant program. Susanna will probably say something about the 104B program in her remarks. I will as well. Next slide, John. Just want to note that, in fact, you should probably have the different presentation mode anyway, but that's okay. John's not used to making presentations. I am, because there's a way to do it so that other slide doesn't show up here. But we have our conference coming up May 2021 on shared borders, shared waters, working together in times of scarcity. We have a great conference advisory committee helping us internally and looking at how we're going to shape that agenda. Please mark it on your calendar. And then also, I do want to note that the WRC had a posting recently put. We're recruiting a GIS postdoctoral research scholar to help us work for a one-year period. That just got posted last week. And if you would, any of you, if you're interested yourself, or please circulate it, we'd really appreciate it. We'd like to get a strong set of applicants with that. So with that, the next portion of our program will entail two short presentations. The first one by Susanna Eden, who's was formerly, before she retired, our assistant director here, and now serves as a consultant to us on a part-time basis. She still works with us, and we're very happy that she does so. And so, Susanna, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a bit about the WRRC history. Are you not having?
Okay.
John,
can you
not able to share the slides?
She's giving her.
Oh, yeah, I will do that.
Okay. Okay.
Just give me a second. Okay. All right. Come on. Can you see that?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Um, well, I guess I should start by saying that I'm not going to say very much about the 104 program. Um, it began with the Water Resources Research Center, and a history of it maybe would be another presentation. Um, but I am going to start before 1964 because in 1957, Saul Resnick founded the Institute of Water Utilization within the College of Agriculture. He directed the institute from 1957 to 1964. But in 1964, the Water Resources Research Act, signed by Lyndon Johnson on July 17th, established a federal-state partnership with a Water Resources Research Institute in each state and Puerto Rico, and later amendments added the District of Columbia, the Virgin Islands, and Guam. We couldn't find any photos of Johnson signing the Water Resources Research Act, but for context, 2 weeks later, he signed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, and that's what you see pictured here. Of the WRRA, President Johnson said, "It will enlist the intellectual power of universities and research institutes in a nationwide effort to conserve and utilize our water resources for the common benefit." So in 1964, the Institute of Water Utilization became one of these WRRA institutes. The name changed to the Water Resources Research Center, and the center became a unit reporting to the Institute of Atmospheric Physics. And the first director from 1964 to 1972 was the physicist Richard Cassander. Saul Resnick returned as director in 1972 and was director till 1984. During his tenure, the WRRC was known for applied hydrologic research. And in 2003, the WRRC conference room was named in his honor. In 1984, the WRRC was located in the Hydrology and Water Resources Department in the Douglas Building. It moved with the department in 1985 to share a building with the College of Engineering and Mines, and that building was later renamed for the U of A hydrogeologist John W. Harshbarger. From 1985 to 1990, William Lord, an agricultural economist, was director. During his tenure, the Arroyo was first published in 1987. And the WRRC shared sponsorship of a series of biennial groundwater recharge symposia with the USDA, ARS, and SRP, and produced proceedings pictured here. Bill Lord also initiated a series of issue papers. My connection with the WRC began in 1988, when Frank Gregg recommended me to Bill Lord to write an issue paper on integrated water management. After writing the issue paper, I was hired as a water resources specialist. In 1991, the WRC moved to the College of Agriculture under Director Hannah Kortner, a political scientist in the School of Renewable Natural Resources, which is now SNRE, and who was the WRRC director from 1991 to 1996. In 1991, I moved with the WRRC into the old Boy Scout building just off campus where we are today. The WRC also provided a home in the Boy Scout building for the new Arizona Project WET. This period saw the creation of the first Arizona water map, as well as the Arizona Water Resource newsletter, Desert Landscaping CD, and WRC website. And I moved away in December of 1993 and returned 12 years later, so I missed the term of Peter Wirenga, a soil physicist who became director in 1997 and served until 2004. He oversaw publication of many information resources, including Water in the Tucson Area Seeking Sustainability. And the second edition of the Arizona Water Map, as well as the first annual conference in 2003, the actual brainchild of the then Associate Director, Sharon Megdal. Funding for the WRC through the State Technology and Research Initiative Fund, TRIF, was negotiated during Peter Wirenga's tenure. Although TRIF distributions have been renegotiated and restructured several times since, support for U of A water programs has been consistent since the initiative was approved by Arizona voters in 2001 and in 2018 was extended to 2041 by the governor and legislature. Sharon B. Megdal, economist, has been the WRC's director from 2004 to the present. She initiated a lunchtime seminar series and established the annual conference as a premier event. There's an early conference, a later conference, and the one coming up. I hope you've marked your calendars. On her watch, the WRC weathered the COVID pandemic, which closed the physical offices. At that time, the WRC focused on digital communications and has continued to have a strong online presence since. The seminar series morphed into a water webinar series, and the AWR newsletter was supplemented and later replaced by the weekly Wave e-News Digest. And here it is after its recent makeover. The building got a water harvesting system and a weather station. Key research and engagement programs were initiated, including the Transboundary Aquifer Assessment Program, or TAP, and Water Rapids, a program that works with communities statewide to assist in water resource planning and balances economic and environmental goals. The TAP produced the first ever report of its kind, the binational study of the transboundary San Pedro Aquifer, which was officially approved in 2016 by the U.S. and Mexican sections of the International Boundary and Water Commission. Within the Water Rapids program, the WRC partnered with NAU in 2015 to create the Desert Flows Database, a geospatial database of environmental flow needs and responses for the deserts of the US and Mexico. Program activities from 2017 through 2024 included a series of community forums on local water resource issues, as well as technical and coordination assistance for community initiatives. In 2014, the WRRC initiated Beyond the Mirage to create an interactive online repository of video clips about water in the West. This team effort, involving Arizona Project WET, the Communications Technology Unit of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, and ACPM, Arizona Public Media, as well as the WRRC. It was led by videographer Cody Sheehy, who had originally contacted WRRC with the idea. It won the first ever New Arizona Prize Water Consciousness Challenge in 2015, which came with an award of $100,000. And in 2016, it won a Crescordia Award from Arizona Forward. The companion documentary, Beyond the Mirage, The Future of Water in the West, was broadcast nationwide on 80 public television stations in October 2017 and won a Rocky Mountain Emmy. The annual photo contest, initiated in 2009 and run by the WRC's John Pohl, has stocked a collection of prize-winning photographs depicting water in Arizona and beyond. And by the way, we are still taking submissions for the 2024 contest. The Arizona Water Fact Sheet series, initiated in 2018-19, provides place-based water information for each of Arizona's 15 counties. The fact sheets contain basic water data, information, and concepts in an easily accessible format. The foundation of each fact sheet was engagement with local stakeholders and Arizona Cooperative Extension. Maricopa County had the first fact sheet, and the Pinal County fact sheet, the last in the series, is being released this month. The WRC engagement with diversity issues took shape in 2020 with the Diversifying Voices in Water Resources project and the Indigenous Water Dialogues initiative. Diversifying Voices research produced the outstanding paper of the year published by the Journal of Contemporary Water Research and Education. A major Indigenous Water Dialogues accomplishment was the groundbreaking 2021 conference, Tribal Water Resilience in a Changing Environment. And I hope I didn't run too much over with all those dates and names. But right now, I think Sharon will talk about the present and the future.
Thank you, Susanna. Thanks very much for that, and for the great set of slides, which will be posted when the recording is posted. I have a short slide deck that has a lot more words than I'm going to say, because we want to get through this quickly and hear from our guests, our visitors who have some remarks to share with us. Yeah, we're checking it. It is the right screen. And this is just a bit of an update on what we're doing, some of which Susanna already covered. Next slide, John. And as she noted, we are the Water Resources Research Institute. Even though we have center in our name, the official federal name for us is the Water Resources Research Institute for the state of Arizona. We just, that's Jamie McAvoy, pictured with me there at a conference that was held in late September, early October, celebrating multiple organizations' 60th anniversaries. The NIWARC group is the group of water institutes, the National Institutes for Water Resources, Universities Council on Water Resources, which the University of Arizona was one of the founding members, was also established in 1964. And the American Water Resources Association was established in 64. So there was a joint conference and celebration. And Jamie, by the way, would love to be here, but she's on jury duty this week. She got called to a jury early last week. And so unfortunately, she's not able to join us today. And just to close the loop on the 104 program that I mentioned, is that the institutes are charged with a few different things. And one of them is supporting research in our individual states with our other state universities through the 104B program. And so for many, many years, one of our important tasks is accepting applications for the funding and administering the funding. And you'll hear an update on the most recent grants on November 20th for those who can join us. It also funds information transfer. So we've been getting funding from that. John, next slide. And I'd like to describe the WRRC as bridging the academic and non-academic communities. One of the things that is also an important demarcation in our history is, and I can't remember the exact year that this happened, but the Water Center, which had been, and this is inside scoop stuff for the university, designated as a research unit, also became an extension unit in the first decade of this century. And then later on in the second decade, became housed primarily in cooperative extension. And so we are an extension center and also a research department located within the division that Shane Burgess heads up, and Ed Martin will talk more about extension in the remarks. So we do very real world, very applied work. As I show here, engagement connected research. Sometimes people call that nowadays transdisciplinary research, but we were doing it before it even had that name. And here are just some examples of some of the work that we do. We work at multiple geographic scales. We work with all water using sectors, and foundational to our efforts is the partnership aspect of everything we do. John, next slide, please. Here are again some of our explicit extension engagement and education programs. Susanna already covered some of these, and just some photos of the most recent Arroyo. All of these are available for free download, and my reflections essay also are available. Those used to be public policy columns in our AWR newsletter, and now it's reflections essays that get published through the Weekly Wave. Next slide, John. I teach, this isn't part of the official workings of the WRC. It's rather something that I do in my faculty appointment, but we do meet here in the conference room, the Sol Resnick conference room. And so it's a way for graduate students enrolled to get a flavor of who we are and what we do as a center, in addition to my class. And it's a class on water policy and management. And here I put up a slide that I put up in the first class about what influences water policy and management, many factors, and some of the testimonials I got last year. The students really appreciate the connection to those involved in the practice of water policy and management currently. Next slide, John. And some special initiatives that I pulled out. Susanna's already mentioned the Diversifying Voices in Water Resources. That paper that did win the award, was the research for that was funded through a 104B grant. So We're very proud of that effort that was led by graduate student at the time, now Dr. Simone Williams, who is a graduate of the Arid Lands Resource Sciences PhD program here. And we're endeavoring to try to enhance diversity in our water resource dialogues in particular. That's where we think, that's a primary focus of what we do, and that's a focus of our efforts to include more diversity of all kinds in our water programming. Indigenous water dialogues, again, this is our 2022 Arroyo that reflected the insights and information that were shared at our 2021 conference, plus some. And then I put up here the Kessler Joint Institute for Food, Water, and Energy Security. That's a partnership between the University of Arizona, the Jewish National Fund USA, and the Arava Valley region of Israel in the south, looking at how we can take the knowledge of the university of regions and hyper-arid regions and help the world with their food security. And we have an effort going on now in Kenya. Next slide. And then our annual conference, which is our signature premier event. Last year, we were honored by Governor Hobbs giving a keynote. And I do have to say, we were probably one of the first large conferences that had to pivot in 2020. Our conference was scheduled for March 29, 2020. We all know what happened earlier that month. So in June, we we delivered a fully online conference. It was before the advancements of Zoom. We did pretty well. We got pretty good reports. I'm looking here at John, who had so much to do with that. Our 2020 conference was also virtual. Our advisors for the Indigenous perspectives on water resilience advised us not to try to hold it in person. That was the best advice we ever got, because things were still very uncertain in the fall or late summer of 2021. But since 2022, we've been back to delivering our conference in person. But what we've become very good at is figuring out how to live stream things. We've all become very good at that. So since 2022, we've offered free live streaming in one direction to our conferences. So that's enabled us to increase our audience significantly, which is a good thing. And we will continue doing that in the future. So I think that's my next to last slide, John. Oh no, one more slide before that, for the last. So we do endeavor to be, if you put up the next slide, we want to be responsive and responsible, consultative, inclusive, and welcoming. So that, keep going, John. We can communicate clearly, we empower decision-making, we elevate diverse voices and perspectives, we collaborate effectively, and we provide engaging and accessible education programs and material. And if you just do one more, we want to be a trusted partner and source of water information. So now the last slide, John. Most of you, I think, who are in attendance today are already subscribed, but we are on a never-ending quest to increase subscribership because people find our programming interesting. They want to learn things about Arizona, Colorado River Basin, and beyond, and this is the best way for people to engage with us. So with that, John, we'll take that down and now move on to what I think is the most fun part of today's program, and that is to hear some comments from some invited speakers. And as we've indicated, after that, we'll have a toast and open it up for open mic. And so we know that some people have meetings at 1 o'clock. I do want to remind everybody that we will go as late as 15 minutes after the hour. So please stick with us as you can. And so our first speaker, and I'm going to introduce them, and as I do, John will spotlight them on the webinar, is Jeannie McLean, who is currently Associate Dean of Faculty Advancement for the College of Agriculture, Life, and Environmental Science I think there's an S at the end. And she's a professor of environmental science, but also formerly an associate director here. We take credit for bringing Jeannie to the University of Arizona. So Jeannie, the floor is yours. Please unmute.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharon. Yeah, as Sharon said, I was the Associate Director of the Water Resources Research Center from 2011 to 2017. When I came to the U of A in 2011, I was formerly in a research position at the USDA that I really loved, but I came south for four main reasons. Number one, the USDA lab was located in Pinal County. It was fairly remote. I had not a lot of access to students, which of course are a primary source of activity in anyone's lab. One exception to that is Channa Rock. So Channa wandered into my USDA lab in 2007 and ended up working there for 2 years before she came to the U of A. And I'm just so thrilled that my name will forever be connected with this incredible superstar of water. My second reason for coming was that at the USDA, I didn't have a lot of experience in water policy research. I was doing water quality, but connecting that to policy was hugely important. And so I really embraced the opportunity for that. Third reason, I had lived in Tucson from 2002 to 2004 when I was doing my postdoctoral work, and I truly fell in love with the city. My husband did too, and we were very happy to relocate back here. My fourth reason, a little bit bittersweet. No, a lot bittersweet. There were four people on the hiring committee when my position was hired, and one of them was Tom Meixner, who I had worked with previously at the USDA. And in July of 2011, Tom forwarded me the job announcement and said, "This one is for you." And he was right. And I will always I miss Tom every day. I'm sure a lot of you do too. I'll always be appreciative that he did that for me. But when I think back to my years, those 6 years at the Water Center, some highlights. Number one, I got that introduction to water policy, the actual ability to go with Sharon to Capitol Hill every year and actually speak to our elected officials was so thrilling. We were not allowed to lobby as USDA scientists. And so it was so thrilling to see our elected officials and how eager they were for water information that we gave them. Another highlight, I became very immersed in tribal water issues. Our annual conference in 2015 was hugely successful. It was called Indigenous Perspectives in Tribal Water Resources and was held up in Phoenix. And as I said, very successful and started some conversations and activities that continue today. I began a collaboration with Arizona Project WET. So I was familiar with their work and knew of Carrie Schwartz, but I had never met her. And so it was a thrill for me to come to the Water Center to work along beside her. On a personal level, my research programs became known internationally. This is definitely was at least partly because I was at the Water Resources Research Center. I traveled to Europe, the Middle East, Asia, and developed collaborations with all of people in all of these areas who were really hungry for research results and policy information. So for 6 years, the Water Center was a huge boon to my career, and I'll always be thankful for that. And but primarily I came away from those 6 years with friendships that I maintain to this day and will maintain for the rest of my life. And many of you are in the room now, and thank you to everyone. Thank you to Sharon. I really treasure the 6 years I spent there.
Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you so much. And yeah, Tom Meixner was a member of the search committee, I remember having dinner and, his interactions. So thank you for connecting him to bringing you to the Water Center. So thank you, Jeannie. I know you have a meeting coming up soon, so please feel free to leave as you must. Our next guest speaker is Shane Burgess, who's Vice President, Division of Agriculture, Life and Veterinary Sciences and Cooperative Extension, and Dean of the Kales College. So Shane, I'll turn it over to you.
Well,
Thank you for joining us.
well, thank you, Sharon. First of all, 60 years is a long time for water leadership, both in the state and the region and indeed the country and then globally. So congratulations on that, and thank you for inviting me here, Sharon. I'm really glad you did because this is the sticky notes, the post-it notes I use are all your post-it notes on purpose because, and the thing I have, I wish I had didn't have my background on, but you'll see the very special Arizona water poster, which I think is one of the best ways of explaining water in the state to anybody. I use it all the time. It sits on my wall and I talk to it all the time. So the world is run by politics, culture, religion, and policy. And although we are the water doing university in terms of making a big impact on actual wet water, the whole system, everything to do with STEM, is completely reliant on how politics, policy, culture, religion, everything that feeds into how the world operates in reality is the most important part. And we're very lucky to have a director of the WRRC who is always at the table, because if you're not at the table, you're going to be on the menu. And so Sharon's occupied an incredible niche, not only as our WRRC director, the face of a federally mandated centre working on water, but of course she's been elected official. I think the way to see the impact of the centre is when you go to one of the regular events where Sharon is getting an award for doing something. And I think that she's really become a legend in the state. So a lot of centers, the director really matters, especially if they're involved heavily in politics and policy. And Sharon's managed to, whoever you took over from, Sharon, because I know you weren't there for the whole 60 years. So from ever, it just may seem like it sometimes. So your shoes are pretty dang big, and it's Sharon's reputation globally, by the way, that enables us to have conversations with, for example, the most recent one being the Office of the President in Kazakhstan with water flooding and transporter water issues. And so, Sharon, you give us all a voice, and the WRRC gives us all a voice. And so, thank you for that. You're a credible voice at the table that can be trusted, whether people want to agree with you or not. So, that's a huge thing to have achieved, both federally and in the state. So well done, and congratulations to everyone involved.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you so much. Each of you is saying things that I'm resisting responding to because we don't have time, but there's so much going on, and the university has given us, the Water Center, the opportunity to engage in these many ways. Next, I'd like to call on Ed Martin, who's the Associate Vice President for the division that I listed, and I have to look up the words of that division name every time, Shane, to make sure I get it right, because it's got a lot of words in it. But he's a Director of Cooperative Extension. And so, Ed, I see you've got Forbes in the background, but I think you're actually up in Maricopa County. The
I
mic is
am.
yours.
I am. I know it's cheating, but I am up here. So no, all I wanted to say truly is first, thank you for the invitation. It's truly an honor to be here and to celebrate this. And I wish I could say 60 years ago, gee, I wasn't even a thought, but that's not true anymore. So I'm actually older than the center. Oh my gosh. But What I do want to talk about a little bit, I mean, water is, the number one issue in Arizona, undoubtedly for so many across the state. But what's really unique, and I think it's kind of evolved this way under Sharon's leadership and with Pete as well, is the connection with cooperative extension. And this is something that was intentional. This wasn't something that just kind of happened by circumstance. We intentionally worked with cooperative extension so that the center would have a more statewide approach and appearance. And it's really worked out very well for us. I want to thank all the people. Thanking Sharon, she's got accolades as long as my arm. She gets awards and all. So I want to also thank her staff and her staff over the years, the many people that have come and gone through the center, the visiting scholars that have worked at the center, and people who have reached out to cooperative extensions sites, county offices, and helped them with their water issues and their policy issues, writing white papers and writing handouts and informational bulletins for all of them, so that they could better understand the complexity of water in Arizona. And I really think it's something really unique here that the research center is so tightly connected with cooperative extension. And we do not, as Sharon know, we don't hesitate to call on her and her staff when we need help and when we need some assistance. And conversely, they do not hesitate to come and help us and offer. And I think it really shows how far this center has come over the past 60 years, and it is now ingrained in cooperative extension throughout the state, all the way from Kingman down to Duncan and the Four Corners down to Yuma. Folks know about the WRRC, not only because of the great work that the center does itself, but the great collaborative work the center does with cooperative extension across the state. And we certainly appreciate all of their assistance as we deal with these issues of water, which are I feel like we're just scratching the surface right now of some of the things that our stakeholders are working with. And of course, then our agents and our staff and the county offices will be working with. So I see this collaboration even growing stronger in the future as we start dealing with new water policies that are coming on board. So I just say, happy anniversary, and thank you so much for all the collaboration and all the work you have done through cooperative extension. And I look forward to doing much, much more of it in the future. So thank you, Sharon.
Well, thank you, Ed. And you mentioned the water map poster, and I'm trying not to say too many words, but when we put up the slide for the GIS postdoctoral scholar, a key aspect of that will be updating and maybe modernizing the platform for it, because we know things are changing in our water landscape here in the state. We have another AMA since that map was last done. We may have yet another AMA soon, and things are changing. So we need a more dynamic approach. So that's one of the things we hope to work on updating, Ed. So
wonderful. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is, I think I can safely say, an old friend, Sid, right? And Sid is retired as a general manager of Central Arizona Project. He had a long career before that at Salt River Project, but his connection to the Water Center goes back before that. And I'm going to leave it up to Sid to share some remarks. And thanks for being with us, Sid.
Well, thank you, Sharon. Listening to the earlier speakers, I'm impressed with the breadth and the scope of impact that the center and the center staff has had on people and agencies, countries. What I want to do is narrow it down a little bit and talk about the impact that the center and the staff can have on individual lives. I'm a graduate at the University of Arizona, graduated in 65 or 64, so long ago it's hard to remember sometime. And I started graduate school. And it was at that time, actually as an undergraduate, that I got to know Saul Resnick quite well. He was one of my professors. And I had gotten married the year before I graduated. I started graduate school. I was paying my own way, and my wife got pregnant. Surprise! And you know, as a graduate student, financially we were on thin ice all the time, so I needed a job. And Saul told me about an opening at Salt River Project. Now, what I didn't know is that he told the folks at Salt River that if they didn't give me an interview, it'd be a huge mistake. I get a little emotional about it because Saul saw things in me that I didn't see, didn't know were there. Well, I got hired, had a great career at Salt River, and then went on to Central Arizona Project after retiring from Salt River and was their second general manager. But when I think about the center, I think about the impact you have on individual lives. And I think of myself as a prime example. When I went to work for Salt River, I think I was 23, 24 years old. They put me on as their representative on something called the Southwest Phreatophytic Control Committee, I think it was called. And I was the only person on that committee that didn't have gray. Now I'm all gray, but I didn't have any gray then, and I felt pretty intimidated. And I remember the first big meeting that I went to was held at Point of Pines on the Indian Reservation, and they had all of these graybeards, and Saul was there, and I was a little bit intimidated because what did I know? I was just a kid. And I'll never forget that after everybody else had called it a night, Saul and I sat by an outside fire talking water. And one of Saul's great gifts, smart as the guy was, as experienced as he was a great listener. And he listened to me just as if I had graybeard experience. He made me feel important. I'll never forget that. And I think that was the night that I said, this is my life's work. And it's because one individual from the center, and I've been blessed over the years to maintain that association and know a great many staff members from the center. And Sharon, you're just the current example of folks coming out of the center that influence things on a huge level, but also on an individual level. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Sid. Thank you so much. I hadn't heard that story about the committee and all that, so thank you for sharing that. We're going to move on now to a non-gray person in the form Elia's on, is she not?
I just asked her to start her video.
Yeah, Elia Tapia, who's now a research professor and faculty member at the University of Sonora. Elia, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, but we're not seeing your video. Did you? Oh, now we see it. John was gonna, I think,
I was
spotlight
checking.
you.
Sorry, there you go.
So yeah, there we go. Thank you, Elia.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me here today. I'm really honored and really excited also about sharing my experience at the Water Center. The WRRC was my second home from 2014 to 2019. I arrived as a PhD student and I left as a research specialist with a doctorate in arid lands research science. During my time there, I was given the opportunity to work on a role that was aligned with my career goals of advancing knowledge on transboundary aquifers. And I also received valuable training on how to create and communicate science. As a water specialist, primarily dedicated to answering technical questions, I hadn't fully considered the critical role of water policy research and empowered decision-making, which are central to the WRRC's mission. A sustainable water future cannot be achieved without these elements, and the WRRC has spent 60 years working toward this vision through applied research, engagement, and education. I'm especially grateful to Dr. Megdal for her trust and support during my time there. The WRRC's influence goes beyond its mission, programs, and activities, since each year it shapes the life of students from all around the world. And I think that this message also complements the message that we received previously from Sid, like speaking about individual impacts on people. We see all the programs, we see the publication, we see that the WRRC is always doing something or working towards the sustainable water future, but it also changes the lives of the people that works there and or that it's related to the center. So through this dedication, students can carry the WRRC's mission of a sustainable water future into their communities, creating waves of positive impact that extends far and wide. So it's like you received us at the center. I was able to be trained and I received all this information, and then I was able to come back home and take this message to the people that surrounds me. So this is something that I'm pretty sure that not only happened to me, some messages relate as well. So it's a message. It's a life that changed, but it's also changing the life of people all around the world. So today, as we celebrate the WRS's 16th anniversary, we look forward to many more years of inspiring and empowering future generations to carry forward the vision of a sustainable water future. So thank you so much for changing my life. And thank you so much for changing the life of all the students and all the staff members, professionals, and even people that just attend to all these workshops and activities. You are making an impact. So thank you so much for that, and happy anniversary.
Well, thank you, Elia, and it's really a delight. We still work together on the transboundary aquifer assessment, and I now get the chance to observe Elia mentoring students at the University of Sonora, and it's truly gratifying to see that. Our next speaker is one of the WRC's best friends, research professor emeritus of environmental policy, Bob Verity, who was with the Udall Center for Studies in Public Policy for many years before his retirement last summer. So, or December, it seems like, yeah, it was December. So Bob, turn it over to you, and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sharon. Wow, 60 years. I heard Sid Wilson talk about gray beards. I don't have a gray beard, I just have a gray mustache. I guess that qualifies me. I've been a witness to the center's history for a very long time. Well, maybe not the whole 60 years, but nearly 40 and counting. I first became aware of the Water Resources Research Center in 1985 when I was working at the Office of Arid Land Studies. At a time when the Water Center was relatively quiet, our director, Ken Foster, was charged with chairing the search for the next director. The person selected was Bill Lord, who ran the center for the next 5 years, as you've heard a couple of times already. About a year after Bill's arrival, he realized that the center needed to publicize its achievements. So he brought on my Arid Lands colleague, Joe Gelt, who had been our technical editor at Arid Lands. Joe's new position as the center's editor, which for a year or two he shared with his Arid Lands job, brought me closer to the work of the WRRC. Not long after this, in 1989, I began my 34-year stay at the Udall Center at the time as Associate Director. One of our first projects in 1990 was to organize, jointly with the Center, a 10-year anniversary conference for the Arizona Groundwater Act. The conference was timely, well-attended, and well-received. I had the honor to moderate a panel that featured the Act's chief architect, former Arizona Governor Bruce Babbitt. That event set the WRRC on a course for organizing many such successful public programs. The Udall Center and the WRRC subsequently published the proceedings as an issue paper and continued to partner on selected programs. The biggest catalyst for my association with the center was the hiring 20 years ago, another wow, of the current director. Sharon and I very quickly established a close rapport and recognized that we had a number of mutual topical and policy-related interests. The most fruitful of these was our collaboration on a conference and then a book comparing water management policies in Israel and those here in the U.S.-Mexico border region. Among other benefits, that work propelled Sharon and the Water Center to its still vibrant and important work on the Transboundary Aquifer Assessment Program, and Sharon will probably agree that it also helped forge her solid and continuing involvement in the world of international water. It's been personally gratifying to see the Water Center become so successful and so central to the state's water agenda. I wish the center and Sharon and everyone there many years of continued success. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. And Bob, you know, you had a very big hand, strong arm in connecting me to some of the international water scene, particularly groundwater and UNESCO. And I'm forever grateful for that, Bob. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Claire Zucker, who, like Jeannie, formerly was with us in a couple different capacities, and the last one was as Associate Director. Claire now directs Pima County Cooperative Extension, so we still interact a lot, as I do with the other people here from the university. But Claire, the mic's yours. Your mic is muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be part of this celebration. I think I would like to say where I started with this. I was on the outside, and then I got on the inside as associate director in other roles, and then I'm now back on the outside. But early on in the beginning of my career in water management and water resources information, I worked at Pima Association of Governments. And in that role, my job was to interact with the different people in different agencies and at the university. And I just remember so many times coming to Water Resources Research Center, brown bag presentations or the conference, and making the connections that I needed to for my job, but also just getting to meet people who had years and years of experience, who contributed to conversations. I was sort of a fly on the wall at that time, just soaking it all in, and so appreciated the connection that the Water Center created amongst the community members, and also with the public in general. I think one of the roles the Water Center has played, and particularly Sharon has played, is being a resource for publications, for the newspaper. Tony Davis has you on speed dial, I'm pretty sure, and as a result, there is a voice of with a breadth of understanding right here in our area, right here in Arizona, right here in Pima County. And this voice actually resonates all the way to the national level and international level. And I don't think that can be overemphasized, that we have someone here in Sharon, but also the whole team that is looking at arid region water policy and water resource issues, and is elevating them to a national and a statewide conversation. So I think that's really, really an amazing for the Water Center. And that gets beyond the research that is also elevating the center and elevating the conversation around transboundary issues, around rural water issues, and a whole range of topics. Then when I came to the Water Resources Research Center, I was so happy to be able to make a change to the university. And it's a whole change of perspective to me. One of the things I did was run the TRIF funding through the Water Environmental Energy Solutions Initiative. And that brought me in touch with research throughout the university on water-related topics, energy and environment as well. I was able to learn about the other researchers, but also see how they interacted with the Water Center and have that perspective of the whole university and being part of that water think tank that goes on here in a range of ways. So that was excellent. And then I do want to say that I didn't understand before I came to work at the Water Center the incredible staff there and the incredible hard work and attention to detail that John Pohl, who's there, makes every day to get that weekly wave out and to get the conference going and to all the things that everybody appreciates. And then Susanna's mad editing skills that I appreciated all the time I worked there, and so many other people. And the young researchers, you get in government, you work with your colleagues, but coming to the university, I was able to interact with young, fresh minds like Elia and Nathan and Kelly and all kinds of people that were nurtured at the Water Center are now out there in the world, really doing excellent, outstanding work. So I want to celebrate that for the Water Center. And then finally, coming to the position as director of the County Cooperative Extension Unit, even before taking this job and moving on, Sharon and I had a lot of discussions and others about the need for water information throughout the state, the need for particular area information. So we have a lot of statewide conversations, but do the county units across the state really know the water situation in their county, what the important things are, but also how to communicate about that? The Water Center created these fact sheets, and I'm so excited you're going to finish your final one. That's super awesome. And this is actually connecting both that and also the many presentations that Sharon and others have done at cooperative extension conferences. So it's connecting the colleagues across the state with the important water issues. And our recent needs assessment statewide showed this is a concern everywhere. So the Water Resources Research Center, the various directors, Sharon's leadership, and so many other people's has really created a consistent conversation around water, bringing in partners from all over to hear each other and to share their knowledge. So I can't thank you enough for what you've done for my career, what it's done for my career, and what it's done for my brain, my happy water brain, and for my county and the citizens of our state. So thank you, and I truly celebrate you.
Well, thank you, Claire, and we celebrate you. You're doing great work in your current position and having that water connection and the work you did getting the county fact sheet project off. And the Pinal County sheet has been released. They're all out there. It was released earlier this month. And I'll just say, we like, you use the word consistent conversation. I wrote that down. I like that. And we try to be consistent, but some of that has to do with capacity to do it. And so just mentioning that we're always looking for the support, the financial support, so we have the capacity to keep doing things consistently. Anyway, thank you, Claire, for all
You're welcome. Congrats
for being here. Thank you. So our next speaker is also a very good longtime friend of the Water Center, Jeff Silvertooth, who's currently professor and extension specialist in agronomy and soil science. Served as extension director for 10 years when we got based very strongly in extension, always a welcome partner in our conferences and other opportunities to share, and just someone that we know we can go to and always got the facts. If there's anybody who knows agriculture in the state of Arizona, it's Jeff Silvertooth. So Jeff, turn it over to you.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for the invitation to participate today. I appreciate that. And I've enjoyed the comments thus far. And I just wanted to add a few things here relative to my experiences at the U of A and with the Water Center. And they tie in with a lot of what we've discussed here this morning or this afternoon. You know, I came here in 1987, and I was hired in January of 87 as an agronomist, soil scientist, and came in and began to work right away with agricultural programs and systems across the state as our assignment was spelled out to do. And it became, of course, it's clear as an agronomist, when you're working with soil plant atmospheric relationships, the number one limiting factor we're dealing with in any kind of agricultural system here in the West is water. And water is still represents about 70% of the total water use in the state going to agriculture. And working with the water relations in the state and looking at the resources on the campus, I became familiar right away with the Water Resource Center, which was very tightly connected at that time with hydrology, the College of Engineering. And one of the aspirations that I shared with some of my colleagues, like Dr. Paul Brown, who was a ag biometeorologist that was working with us in Extension, was the need to better integrate what we're doing in agriculture with the activities of the Water Center. So we worked in that capacity and continued in that similar line of work until 2000. And at that time, Dr. Varenga, who's joining us here today, Peter Varenga, was stepping down as the head of the Soil and Water Science Department. And it was that time the Soil, Water, Environmental Science Department had recently changed its name. And I became the department head in 2000. And working in that capacity in 2000, we began working more intimately, I think, had the chance to do a lot more work with bringing agriculture into the forefront of some of the work with the Water Center. And Peter stayed on with the Water Center after he stepped down as department head for, I think, 4 years. And so I worked with Peter in that relationship with the Water Center. And TRIF funds came on board in 2001, I believe, the Technology Research Initiative Fund directed by the state of Arizona legislature. And then that began to develop some competition on campus with all of the different water facets that we have on campus. Being deeply embedded in a department in the college, Gene Sander, who was the dean at the time, indicated that it was probably better that we bring the Water Center out of the department and make it more of a college level entity and make it more accessible to more other entities on campus, which then we did during that time that I was in as department in my first few years there. I continued in that capacity, working very closely with the Water Center. Sharon came on board in 2004, I believe, as Peter retired. And through 2012 in that capacity, I think we had a very good working relationship with the Water Center. A lot of our students were working with the Water Center. And I saw a lot of, I think, a lot of positive growth taking place at that time. In 2012, I had the chance to take on the role as the director of extension. And I was in that capacity, as Claire indicated and Sharon indicated, for 10 years. And in that relationship, then the Water Center became a direct entity of cooperative extension. And it's been a pleasure to be associated with the Water Center, see its growth, its development, and it's more broadly integrated with many facets of agriculture and water use across the state, as we've mentioned nationally and internationally as well. It's been a pleasure of mine to be part of it all the way along, both as a recipient of the information and the good work that's done there. The staff is incredible, as has been mentioned several times. And I just congratulate you on the growth, the good work that's been realized thus far. And I wish you the best in the future as you continue on and continue to grow. So thank you for the chance to work with you over the many years that I have and still be associated with the Water Center and to participate today. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeff. And your rallying cry was, got to work with the counties, got to work in extension. And we wanted them to work with us. And it turns out the county fact sheets ended up a very good vehicle, and it's helped us develop a stronger relation there. So thank you for the help in pushing us there. So appreciate it very much. So we have two more speakers and we'll go, beyond the 1:15. So for any of you who can stay with us, please do. Our next to last invited speaker is Rebecca Burnett, who's currently manager at the Arizona Water Banking Authority. And Rebecca, without further ado, I'm going to ask you to share some words.
Good afternoon, Dr. McDowell. Good afternoon, everyone. When I think about the WRRC, the word that immediately comes to mind is opportunity. And I'll start with a funny story. So my first day at the WRRC was also my first day in Tucson. And I was very anxious about meeting Dr. McDowell for the first time. So I don't remember what happened, that day, besides my conversation with Dr. McDowell. And my husband told me that we actually met that day and talked, but I don't remember. I remember meeting him the next day during Dr. McDowell's water policy class. And so I told him when later I applied for a green card that we had to get our story straight for our meeting with the immigration agent. So that's kind of how it started for me with the WRC. And but more seriously, I worked as a graduate assistant. And the first assignment that Dr. McDowell gave me was to look into long-term storage credits. And that's what I did. And now we wrote an article about the market for those water credits. And now I'm in the business of buying these credits. And I wrote a $12 million check 2 months ago to buy these credits. So it's really funny how I always use, the knowledge, and I always, come back to what, in my current role, to what I did at the WRC. I also wrote stories for the Weekly Wave, and I couldn't believe they gave me the job. I mean, English wasn't my first language, but I managed to write those stories with the help of Susanna and with Claire. So I was really grateful for this opportunity as well. I also traveled with Dr. McDowell to to my very first international conference. We went to Mexico City for the International Symposium on Managed Aquifer Recharge, and it's after this conference that I decided to write my dissertation about managed aquifer recharge in Arizona. And right before I finished my dissertation, I worked again for the WRC as a graduate research associate, and we wrote an article, Dr. McDowell and I wrote an article about water federalism that we later published as well. So I'm really incredibly grateful for the opportunities that Dr. McDowell and the WRC gave me. So happy anniversary.
Well, thank you, Rebecca, and appreciate your taking the time. It's great to see you in the public sector, in the governmental sector, watching people like you and Elia do great things with based on the studies here at the University of Arizona. And it's just a pleasure. We saw each other last week. So Rebecca and Brian, they were both students here. They met at the University of Arizona. And now they have a little boy. Lucas is how old? Actually, Elia, her son's name is Lucas. You may not know that. That's your son's name as well. How old is he now, Rebecca?
6 months old.
Yes, and he came to hear me in a panel in Scottsdale. So Rebecca isn't wasting any time in indoctrinating him in the importance of learning about water, right? Thank you, Rebecca. All right, so now for our final and marquee speaker is next to me, Peter Renga, who his name has been mentioned many, many times, is a former director immediately before me and former department head for now the Department of Environmental Science, world-renowned soil scientist. So Peter, I turn it over to you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Michelle. I have a few things that I I would like to see. My Jean, the Dean of Agriculture, appointed me, asked me if I would like to also oversee the Water Resources Research Institute at the time. And I said, yeah, I would like to. And one of the first things that I do is there have not been the annual water conference, and we started the annual water conference not at the scale that it's going on now. Nobody can do that except for Sharon, but we had a good start, and I like that. Another thing that I'm quite proud of is that I hired Kerry Schwartz, and Kerry had a very unique program to work with schools, grade schools, and spend the whole day with a particular school and talking with different games and stuff about water, the use of water, and how to save water. And so I had the privilege to attend many of her meetings, and it was always fun. She was so good at doing that. Then the name came up here also of Joe Gelt. Joe was a writer, and he got started on the Arroyo, and I liked a lot what Joe did, so I appreciated his help a lot. And other things that were mentioned, TRIF and those kind of things, they were kind of, in a sense, political a little bit. The Water Center had a great role in the TRIF and the management and the distribution of it because of this. Actually, Dean Sander was the boss. So that worked out good for me. I'm also very proud on having a role in getting Magdal Sharon to Tucson. And now she was already in Tucson, but as director of the Water Center. And that happened because I went to some conferences or meetings that the Arizona Department of Water Resources was organizing in Phoenix, and the big shots of people, farmers, etc., and from the Arizona Department of Water Resources met at that time. Was it once a month or something like that? And I went there, and I was impressed of the presentations and the knowledge of one particular person. And so I asked my dean to let me have an associate director. And so then from then it was done. I mean, she talked to Dean Sander, and Dean Sander made a decision. And so I feel very good that I had a role in bringing Sharon to the Water Center. And I don't have to explain more about her career. The career has been just fantastic, in my opinion, and still is. And she has had an enormous good working relationship with the people we all heard here, and traveled internationally a lot, has a worldwide reputation actually in water management. And so I'm very proud of that she has such a recognition, gets recognition here, but also that's such a very good career so far. I was also happy to see that, and that's, I want to blow my own horn a little bit, is that several of the speakers here are now in the Department of Environmental Sciences. And I'm kind of proud of that I got that started, the environmental sciences. That idea was around the Department of Soil Water at that time. And I thought that was a good idea. So I went and spent a lot of time getting it together. And what I wanted was a department that was science-based, not just policy, but also mostly science. So I went to all the various department heads and tried to get them on board and put them on a committee to develop a program. And that was hydrology, chemistry, physics, atmospheric science, all the different departments. They had members on the program, and we developed a program together with help from one of Dean Sanders' assistant professors. And so eventually we came up with a very good program, and that was approved by the Board of Regents. And another good thing with that program was that they got a degree from the college, not from the college, from the University of Arizona. And so I was afraid that if it was given by the College of Agriculture, that would not sit well with some of the applicants. And so, but in the meantime, that program, environmental science, have been very, very good. And this is, I think, the first year that it is actually called environmental sciences rather than soil, water, and environmental sciences. And that is a good progress. And they get tremendous enrollments of students. And so I'm very impressed. But anyway, Sharon, you had a great role in all of that, both being a professor in environmental sciences and with your classes that you taught and so much inspired so many people to get more education, to get a good education in water. And so that all worked out fantastic. So congratulations on that. And that's about all I have to say.
Well, thank you, Peter. And yeah, there's so much history interwoven here and I remember that conference in the first conference the Water Center did on the 20th anniversary of the Groundwater Management Act, because Bob talked about the 10-year anniversary.
Yeah.
And for the 20th anniversary, I wasn't working here then, but I was part of that conference. I was asked to do a panel or whatever. And I remember that, and Governor Jane Hull spoke at that. It was brought together jointly with the Department of Water Resources. And she announced she was going to form this Governor's Water Management Commission, which is the meeting that you went to, where we talked about trying to improve things in terms of groundwater management. And here we are 20 something years later, and there's a new Governor's Water Policy Council. I'm the only person who served on both, but also trying to figure out how to improve groundwater management. So the point here is, I've been around a while, but that's not the main point. The work continues, that we have lots of work to do. We've had things that we've accomplished that we, the collective water community, both academic, non-academic, have done. We've educated students who are going on to do things and great things now, or even retired. I want to mention that Michael Carpenter had to leave. I met Michael Carpenter recently at a different program we did, but he said he had a grant as a graduate student in 76, 77 that was with Saul Resnick, Gray Wilson, Jim DeCook, Dennis Schnell, whom I don't know, and others. And it was in the basement of the old psych building, later named the Douglas Building. And so he had to run before he could say something. But again, there are a lot of people who have long connections. So with that, and we're running over time, and I don't know if there's anybody, but we said we were going to do a water toast. We're a little late in it, but we've got our mugs. Peter's got one that has that 60th anniversary thing on it. I've got my U of A mug. If people would like to pick up a glass, a cup, a mug, whatever, as Peter put it, let's do a toast to all that we collectively have accomplished and to the future of what we hope to accomplish, and leave it simply at that and take a drink of water or whatever you've got in your hand. And I've been wanting to take a drink the whole time, and I didn't want to preempt the toast part of it and somebody think I was doing things out of order. So I'm very glad to take a drink of very good Tucson water. So with that, I want to thank everybody who joined us, prepared comments, and we are going over time, but is there anybody in the audience who would like to unmute and say a few words? Please raise your hand if you do, so we know to call on you. John, do you see any hands going up? We'll go once, going twice, going 3 times, and if not, want to thank everybody, want to give credit to the staff. You know, we work very hard here, trying to do a lot of things, trying to keep up with what's expected of us. It's not always easy, but people are working very hard to come through. And these water webinars are a good way for us to connect to people virtually from all over the state, the country, the world. And so we appreciate everybody's continued support of our work and involvement. And with that, I think we're done. And thank you, everybody, for being with us today. Have a great afternoon.